Hey guys, welcome to another session of RBTL. This is the December 13th Hero Balance Adjustment preview. So this is not set in stone yet. They have noted that the values and skill description mentioned in this preview may differ from the actual update. So giving him that room there, I think that's fine. First things first, we got Apocalypse Ravi buff. So everybody's asking for that for a long time, and I thought Apocalypse Ravi is okay. S3 was kind of meh. But otherwise her S2 and S1 was like beautiful. So I used her in a lot of content actually, now using her in raids, hell raids, and now even GVG quite a bit, depending on the fight. I think totally now she should be one that you build for that role, a sustainable utility, actually more sustainable bruiser, sustainable damage dealer. That'd be really nice, especially if you're not running a knight on the team, like if you're doing a GVG offense or something like that. On a defensive side, I still don't think a Ravi is really good, especially with the predominant light baits. A Ravi does good enough damage, but she's either not fast enough or she just, I don't know. I'm still in a weird zone about her. I know a lot of people are running her on a defense team, and I still haven't seen one that really works, even from top players. So in my opinion, still I think she's going to be an offensive hero. Now, even with the buffs we're going to talk about here, someone on stream actually brought up, hey, does that mean that maybe we could build her on a speed set so she doesn't need the crit rate for the critical hit chance? My response to that was I never really used it for the critical hit chance. It's just more for more damage, because if she's going to sustain so much damage anyway, may as well throw some back, and she can gain additional healing, gain more fighting spirit from countering. So I still think like end game build would still be a counter set. Currently mine's on counter set and defense set. Anyways, so the actual buff is now the fighting spirit has no effect on the critical hit chance. So originally 100 fighting spirit is what you can get at maximum, 5% per 20, so you get 25% crit chance. But now you just get 30% right off the bat. So she's gonna be super easy to build now, in terms of like when you're shifting gear around, after if they release it this way, of course. She's gonna be way easier. 70% crit rate is all you need to start off, so you can really scale that attack, HP, whatever stat you really need, but you don't need to look for crit chance anymore. So that's pretty amazing. So I'll definitely look into rebuilding her, because I think one of the things I went for was really high crit rate. And so I might be shifting some stuff around, which is great. The S3, no increased damage, so once you kill, still has the same effect. So revive one random ally, so just keep that in mind. One random ally with 10% health, giving them a skill null. The problem with the S3 was that it never did enough damage, so a lot of times you might not get the kill. Like, you might think you could get the kill, but you don't get the kill. That's happened not even just in PvP scenarios for me, but it's happened in PvE as well. So sometimes it's kind of like, I don't know if I want to risk the S3, because I don't know if I can kill, whereas I can 100% kill with the S1, especially if they soul burn it. So I think the S3 could use a slight damage modification, maybe like a 10% more damage. I think it would be really good. The thing is that the thing I think the developers have to realize is that Soul Exchange, her S3 is on a cooldown. It's on a cooldown, so really, I mean, yes, you could revive it, revive a hero out of it, but it's on a cooldown, so you're not going to be spamming that a lot. So I think a 10% increase in the damage would be justified, in my opinion. It's not super OP, but it's just a little bit more on the correct side of where her S3 should be. But I do like the buff here. Increase the combat readiness of the revived hero by 100%. So the good thing about this is that one problem, especially in a PvP scenario, is that if you're running Apocalypse Ravi and you're hoping to revive her, in the past, if you revive they have a skill null. Let's say the enemy goes, they are revived in the CR placement of when that hero actually died. So the problem with skill null, instead of like immortality or something, or invincibility like Ruel's revive, is that they can pretty much just die again. But of course, this is slightly better than Maid Chloe's revive. I'm not talking about the revive buff, just the revive itself, because they have a skill knot to kind of grant them like survivability. Now this to me 100% combat readiness is a lot more usable, but again the problem was not really the revive itself, although that was a part of it. The problem was the damage, so you wouldn't know if you could actually grant the revive. So it could be really bad. I think at one time in the GVG I got a sliver of HP, like a 20 HP left on that hero. I was super salty, where the revive could have changed the fight, because I think the revive was on a healer. It was back when Fire Corvus was really OP. It was a Fire Corvus Arbiter Vildry kind of comp. I brought ML Ravi. It could have helped the fight if it actually revived, but it didn't. So feels bad, man. Feels bad. So anyways, so that's my thoughts on Apocalypse Ravi. So again, I think, though, I do think that with a 30% crit rate, it still might be like okay on a speed set. A lot of people still running on a speed set. Counter set I think is more end game kind of gear, like really end game gear. Most end game players still don't even bother farming Banshee, but I highly recommend on a counter set. Anyways, you guys will see one of my videos I'm going to be posting either before or after this one on my builds for all of my heroes for season 2 of Guild War. Anyways, the Kise buffs look pretty good. Again, though, my problem with her is that she's a nuker to me. Yes, somewhat of a cleaver, and actually a pretty darn strong cleaver, but it's a cleaver on a cooldown. And the problem with me is that I don't like running thieves into fights, at least most fights. Generally it's too high risk for me in terms of squishiness. She's a Leo, so she has Vildred's stats, which is really solid, really well balanced HP, very high attack, and pretty decent speed. I've seen Kise's at 240 speed, Kise's at 180 speed, nuking Kise's that require CR boosters, whatever your flavor may be. I think that Kise's buffs all around is really great. 70% more damage dealt originally to someone with a barrier. Now that was really great when like DN meta just started with Angelica. People would bring Kise's just to end them, because as soon as they put a barrier on, especially a Soulburn S1, so Full Moon Scythe is her S1, especially a Soulburn S1, it means that that hero at that current meta at that time would have been dead as long as she landed a critical hit. This was really useful on Wyvern 11-2 early on, before Luna was released on Global. Was using Kise for Wyvern hunts. This was really good because Wyvern 11 goes in that barrier phase. You can cut down that barrier in like 1 to 2 turns, pretty easy. Now it's just when they're buffed. So this is pretty amazing. Other than anti-crit buff, every single other than anti-crit buff, every single buff would be really beneficial to this. 70%. So yeah, definitely usable now again, since almost every single team comp, especially on a defense team, will probably set themselves up with some sort of buff one way or another, or at least a defense break. But the buff is you're gonna see that quite a bit. And if people are going into, let's say if you do run Kise on a defense team, I don't think you should. Still thief being thief. If you do run her on a defense team, though, the thing is that most offensive teams will bring some sort of buff, so it could be good. But again, do remember that Kise does go into the S3, then the S2, and then the S1 on the AI side. So you know, it depends. S3, so Nocturne, so after the Awakening, so critical hit will grant a barrier to the caster for 2 turns, and the barrier strength is proportional to the caster's attack. Now, if it's like anything like any of the barrier stacking on the attack side of things, like so for example like Surmia's exclusive equipment, I'm not expecting it to be like Surmia's exclusive equipment. I think like Surmia's exclusive equipment, the barrier was like, gave her like, I don't know, like 50% more of her self HP pretty much, like an equivalence of, but it was scaled on the attack. But I've seen like people ending up having like a 15,000 HP equivalent Surmia's with their attack buff, which is crazy. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, Surmia's barrier is busted. So I don't know how much this would be. I'm guessing it won't be as high as that, because that would be insane. The thing about the S3 having the barrier, why I like it, is because when she goes to the S3, she goes into stealth, regardless. So unless you're proccing like a counter immediately into your face, she's going to go into that stealth, and the barrier can help her stay in stealth. That's one of the things that Kise always needed. If you're running her on a defense team, she always needed some sort of barrier, like barrier buffer, to prevent her from coming out of the stealth. Because if she stays in stealth, her damage on the S2 is insane. It actually does, it doesn't say it here, but it does the defense penetration on the S2. So it's pretty crazy. But yes, it does require a critical hit. So I don't think that's going to be too hard to manage. It won't be too hard, I think, because most people, I mean, if you're running as a damage dealer, you got to get that crit rate up. That's got to be high priority. And I do think with this buff, you will have to try to build her at least for 95%, 100% crit. I think so, because you really want that barrier. Her S2 after being stealth, and only while she's in stealth, will grant a defense penetration, and it's a cleave. It does a lot of damage, so I would definitely look into that. So yes, so high priorities would be obviously don't be confused as well. The proportion of caster's current health. This is not scaling on HP. This is total health percentage wise. So if you have a 6,000 HP and you have 1% health versus 10,000 HP, 1% health, this is not HP scaling in terms of the more HP you have, the more damage you'll deal. So just in case newer players may not understand the language, there's so much HP sort of mechanics around like Crow, D-Corvus, and all that stuff. So it could be confusing. And K-Ron even. K-Ron's is proportional to lost health percentage. So yes, that's my thoughts on Kise. She's gonna be meta. I don't think so, but definitely more usable. I think for PvE, she's gonna be a lot more usable now. But again, it's like, if you have Luna as a nuker, like, would you not use her? If you have SSB as a cleaver, would you not use her? But Kise does bring in some interesting mechanics, especially if you do get that first turn, you can put her into stealth, and the game can change from there. So that would be kind of cool. We're gonna go to Cartuja. So Cartuja's buffs. Cartuja already got one round of buffs, so getting another round means that it didn't really work. I don't think anybody pulled out Cartuja to play with. And at this point, even with this buff, I still don't think so. And I think the problem really is the full kit itself. It's like, is it usable? Now, he has a 50% defense break on the S1. Now it's up to 100% decrease attack for 2 turns AoE. So that's very nice. And recovers 50% of the health before granting defense for 2 turns. And then damage dealt increases proportionally to caster's max health. And additional damage dealt when caster is less than 75%. He has a passive at the S2 with CR boost pretty much every time he's under 50% health or something like that, and he gets additional if it's under another certain percent of health. So in terms of like usability, again, in PvP, I still don't see a place for him. Like, yes, an attack down is great, but most of the time in whatever scenario in a PvP fight, whether GVG or arena, you may get some sort of buffer or healer or someone that doesn't actually do too much damage. So would you opt for AoE like attack down? I'm not 100% sure. For some setup and some counter like anti-element baiting, you might be able to. So let's say, for example, you have a lot of ice heroes on the offensive team, and he can be there to try to kind of just screw them up. Yes, I think he could be usable, but again, if he's not getting any damage dealt to him, he's not really benefiting from a lot of stuff. I think in terms of like, I'm gonna compare these two, even though not really comparable. In terms of like Earth Purgus versus Earth Cartuja, I think Earth Purgus has way more like area to be used. One, his crowd control can be very nutty to deal with. He's just not bad in general. Like, in general, I think he's just way better. He has better stats too, better HP, I think better defense. Cartuja is about 6,600 HP, whereas Purgus is 7,000. So Purgus, I think, overall has just a more annoying more annoying kid. That's why people start building him. Our Cartuja, I just don't see that. I just don't see that in him. So that's my thoughts. And Dingo, Fire Dingo is also interesting. I was kind of interested when I saw the top listing Dingo. I was like, cool, Dingo. I really want to use him. I always thought he was a cool hero. I do like his S3, providing that he gets a 1 turn cooldown decreasing for the AoE. So I've always liked that. I was thinking about him with like Captain Ricorous on some kind of weird meme team. That would be really cool. But no, sadly, the buffs doesn't really make him that much more usable, in my opinion. So basically, the quick grill after will get recover caster's health, and the health is proportional to the damage dealt. So one thing about Dingo is that he is very, very weak. He has the same stats as Kitty Clarissa. Back when I was using Dingo or Kitty Clarissa to deal with ML Araminta, ML Baal, that meta, that nightmare, I was trying to build them up like pretty fast, really high effectiveness, high effect resistance rather, and as tanky as possible. And they really don't have the stats to give them really, really, really beefy stats. Now, if he's gonna do his health based on damage dealt, then you're gonna have to fish for more stats out of him. So that's almost counterintuitive to me. Although I know that some people have built Dingo. One thing though, while I built him as a cleanser, Dingo can be a DPS. So it's the same as Blaze Dingo. I should have clarified that. Dingo, if built as a DPS, can be very good. My problem is though, if you build him as a DPS, he's too squish. That I don't think he's gonna bring much to the game. The thing is, he can be a cleaver, but if you're gonna use him on like an on offense team, we got ML Kens, we got like SSBs on defense team, we got Charles. Even with Charles is known for critting fire heroes. See, Dingo can't be used in those cases. Dingo just can't be used in those cases. Maybe some single target team comps, but again, like why would you bring Dingo? Why not bring like Fire Ravi for the cleave? You know, like Fire Ravi builds up damage over time. So again, it's the question of like, why would I use him over someone else? And I don't think the health recovery is enough to merit him to be used. Free dinners, the S3, like I said, they do note it down here that the all allies is not an additional change to provides allies. It's just that it wasn't really clear before. So that's only a language change. So in my opinion, they shouldn't have made it green. But anyways. Increasing crit chance for 2 turns. So when I read this, I was like, okay, that doesn't actually make sense to me. While it's an additional thing to have, it's like kind of useless to me. So they said like basically this effect of the skill was not adequately to fulfill the role of a supporter. So they see him as a supporter, mind you. Therefore, we added the buff, increased critical hit chance. So to me personally, I think critical hit chance is probably the weakest buff to put on. Like if he has a defense buff, that would be great. Critical hit chance, I don't think that does anything for me. Barrier would be good. Even healing over time would be good. I know that he's not a soul weaver, so yeah. So the question would be why. In my opinion, like if I wanted to see more fun, the thing is, dispelling all debuffs is a very, very powerful skill. And decrease cooldown by 1 turn. So I kind of get it that they don't want to give you like, let's say, an attack buff, or even a defense buff. But what I would like to see would be almost like a Rin sort of buff, where maybe not a two random buffs, but 1 random buff. That would be nice, because I think if Dingo had a random buff, I would actually use him more, because it's almost like you're using him for the dispel debuff part, but you're also using him for the cooldown part. And then it's like, really, if you give him a random buff, this would do exactly what he says, right? It's exactly what Spanky said. Therefore, we added the buff, increased critical hit chance. The reasoning behind it was that he wasn't a supporter enough. And in my opinion, like if Rin as a soul weaver has like random buffs, I think Dingo can merit that. I think it could make some really interesting stuff. Speed buffs, attack buff, like I said, crit chance buff can still be in there. Defense buff would be nice. Like you throw some random stuff in there, and I think that would be really cool. But still, whether or not you do that and you keep the critical hit chance, I still don't think he's going to be used, at least in PvP. The thing is, though, I do know that the Smilegate is trying to push and trying to retweak heroes so that almost all of them could be used in PvP since World Arena is coming. I know that they do want to throw in more options for players, and I do think that a well-built Dingo can do well. It's just, again, I don't think that the buffs itself make him stronger than, let's say a Kitty Clarissa. I prefer Kitty Clarissa over him. Again, like I said, same stats, pretty much the same deal. But Kitty Clarissa gets another turn right away, and Kitty Clarissa is much more usable. She can strip, she can put unhealable, she can go into a dual attack right away. She could be granted a net extra turn right after doing the S3. So to me, Kitty Clarissa, like if you got Dingo, got Kitty Clarissa, same stats, same awakenings and stuff, I feel like Kitty Clarissa is way better in terms of like what she grants to the entire team. So again, that's kind of a feels bad, man. So out of these four, for sure, Kise, great buff. Apocalypse Ravi, I think now people should build her again as that sustainable bruiser. But again, I think for people who already have an entire roster full, especially endgame players, this may not merit you to build Apocalypse Ravi, because if you want to use Apocalypse Ravi, you do have to mold her. That's one downside. If you want to use her well, you have to mold her. So a lot of people probably will still not justify the Molagora into Apocalypse Ravi, especially if they have a certain type of style to play. I play more sustainable and safe, so that's why Apocalypse Ravi is appealing to me. Anyways, regardless, that's my thoughts on the patch here, or the balance adjustment preview. I'm going to end this for the video recording here. If you guys have Discord, check out the Discord server. Follow me on Twitter. Subscribe to YouTube if you haven't. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.